Awesome. Thanks, Dan. Hey, everybody, and good morning to you all. Thanks for having me here to talk to you today about leadership is changing. Leadership is changing. What an interesting topic. Personally, I've been through a lot of change, and Dan's just given a bit of an introduction on myself. But the thing here is this, is that, I've worked for a Fortune 10 company, but I grew up in small businesses and worked in small to medium-sized businesses as well. I've got a real passion for high performance and excellence. And the other thing is, about 4 years ago, actually in about 3 weeks' time, I had a tumor removed from my left vocal cord. And for me, I thought my life was over, let alone my career. And I thought, uh-oh, what am I going to do? The good news, it was benign, which means it wasn't cancerous, which was great. And I felt like I've been given a second chance in life. So what I decided to do was to leave my corporate role and to go out and start my own business, which I started about 2.5 years ago. Out coaching, facilitating, working with individuals, entrepreneurs, business owners, and also working with teams as well around leadership, change, and so forth. But if you think about the journey that I've done with my voice and how important the voice is for me and what I do, I launched a podcast about 4 months ago called Leadership is Changing, where I interview 2 people once a week, 2 guests, and then I also do a freestyle. It is in the top 50 in the world in the business management category, and I'm loving it. And it's really quite exciting to be part to do that as well. So let's talk about what's actually happening, and let's talk about the leadership and change and so forth. But what is a leader? Well, all of you on the call right now are leaders. It doesn't matter whether you own a business or whatever, you are a leader today. The thing here is, how are you showing up as a leader, and are you stepping up as a leader? Because you see, what I want to share with you is that we know that there is one thing that is true or common in business and in the world today, and that is change is constant. Sometimes we are given a bit of a curveball, and what happens here is that we as leaders confront similar obstacles because people are people, and everywhere you go, leaders are overwhelmed, they're disrupted, and they're under pressure. Hey, that might be you as well, right? You might be relating to this. Many leaders are not changing quick enough is what I'm seeing, which means they run the risk of becoming irrelevant and being left behind. And we're seeing a lot of that, especially with the pandemic, and it's forcing us to really change and start thinking about things a little bit differently. However, change is quite scary as well, right? So if I think about it, it is very scary. And the unknown, the unfamiliar territory, the knowledge of things that you don't know is scary at times, but sometimes though you need to make change. But we know that if you don't take action, then things are certainly not going to get better for you on their own. But still we know that change is scary. So what are you going to do around that space? So that's an interesting question here. But before I go into the 6 ways where you can actually do some change and help things, let's talk about the leader's mindset for a second. Because what we think is what we become. The people we hang around, like this network, is the thing, well, this is what we become, right? The people you hang around. But what we know is that our thoughts affect our emotions, and our emotions affect our actions, which produces results. And if we're going through things like a pandemic and not sure what's going on, it's quite hard for us to actually get on with things and create results. So I always ask myself, and you may want to ask yourself this, where is my thinking at the moment? And I always like talking about a story here around the All Blacks. Now, the All Blacks, when another team scores against the All Blacks, in other words, a try, what happens? Well, the All Blacks tend to huddle behind the goalposts. So what are they doing there? Are they sitting there blaming each other? Hey, you missed that pass, you didn't sidestep, you didn't tackle properly? No. Are they there to actually sit and talk about what they should be doing? No. What they're actually doing is they're actually taking 2 deep breaths. And these big breaths, so what are they for? They're actually to slow things down. They're actually to help get oxygen to the brain and help the team calm down and slow down. If they don't, then the other team may score against them again. Now, team, a lot of things that we go through in life is out of our control. The pandemic, as an example, is out of our control, but there are 2 things that are in your control. Number 1 is your attitude, how we react to things. Number 2 is where we are going next. And it's the going next that I want to start talking to you about. And there are many things I want to share, but there's going to be 6 of them that in particular that I want to share with you today to make change and survive in this disruptive world. Taking the plunge and pushing yourself into a much needed change does not have to be an all or a nothing kind of situation. And you don't actually have to do it alone, which is quite interesting to know. So I'm going to invite you to consider these following steps as I go through them and start thinking about how does this relate to you and what do you need to do to start helping you set up for success. Now, I want to check out the key words in that title that's on the screen right now on the slide. 6 ways to make change and survive in this disruptive world. Well, disruptive's up there. The second thing is make change, but the third important word is survive. And that's what we're going to be talking about right now, for sure. Okay, so let's dive into each of these different areas. Number 1 is decide your risks. So many won't make change or even make a decision. They just sit around and they won't make decisions, and you'll know who these people are. And if you don't make a decision, then what tends to happen is that the circumstances will start to force you to make a change. For me, I actually wanted to go out into my own business for years, but I was quite comfortable in the corporate world, earning a nice big fat salary, but I actually decided not to go out. Then life actually changes things and pushes things onto me. And so then I had got this thing called a tumor on my left vocal cord. What did that do? Maybe wake up, maybe understand that, hey, maybe I need to go out and do some things as well. And so that's what I started to do. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is actually get pen and paper out and write down your thoughts and any data and facts to help you make an informed decision to make those decisions. And, you know, for a lot of us, we might even start thinking about what are we risking and what are the potentials versus rewards. The key here, team, is decide your risks, make a decision, make it a deliberate decision, and then get on with it, which is really important. Number 2, imagine your future if you do change. So what a lot of people I work with, whether they be executives, leaders, entrepreneurs, business owners, I work with a lot of people and I start talking to them about the 5-year vision. For some of them, it's just about the next 2 years. So what does it look like? And I get them to think about a blank canvas and they start brainstorming. But it's time to sort of get them to close their eyes if they want to, or write down on paper, but envision what their future would look like. In other words, I get them to future pace, as we call it. What are they doing in 5 years' time? Who are the people around them? Where are they living? What kind of money are they earning? What kind of business or role or whatever they want to do in life? What are they doing? So I want them to consider all of their aspects of life. The thing here is, what is the life that you want going forward? And do you see good things happening for you? So that's number 2. Imagine the future if you change. Number 3, imagine the future or your future if you don't change. Now, because we always talk about the positive side and so forth if you do change. But for us as human beings, we tend to go the negative first. Well, I went to the positive first. But what happens if you don't change? What's the consequences of that? Well, if you don't make change, do you see yourself being happy? Here's an interesting question for you all. What will you be like to live with? You'll be happy at home, or you'll be a grumpy person at home? And if you see the same old, you're going to get the same old. So the thing here is yes, you can imagine what you do want, but imagine if you don't change as well, what will happen? Once you've got step 2 and 3 done there, then you need to start thinking about future stuff as well. And what does that mean for you? But you know what? At the end of the day, something needs to change for you to move forward. That's the key. Something has to change. Now, the thing here is you don't have to do it on your own, because change is scary and challenging, but you can have people around you. So I use the word recruit there, but find people around you, essential people who are going to help support you in your life, your business, and whatever you're doing. Now, that could be a partner, a friend, your parent, or somebody who's willing to give you advice, a shoulder, a coach, somebody that's going to be able to help you step through things. And so make sure you choose the right people. This is really important, because I always ask leaders or ask business owners and that, do you have the right people around you? And they go, yeah, I do. And then as we step into it further, we find that they don't actually have the right people around them. When you do have the right people around you, things are easy. It actually happens. Now, are these people around you who have a bucket of water that pour the water on your flame of your passion and so forth? Or are they people with a bucket of petrol that can actually fuel your passion and help you really explode into something fantastic? Decide who they are and be very careful on that. Hey, let's go to number 5 here, which is start small. You don't have to jump in with both feet on your first attempt at making change. You can slowly do it, and you can do it very small as well. And what I find, whoops, go back. And what I find is that small steps are still progress, right? So if you take one step at a time, you can get on with it. But the key here is that you're doing something. Most people are a bit like deers in the headlights of an oncoming car. They're just sitting there, they're paralyzed. They don't know what to do. Well, they sort of know what they need to do, but they just don't get on with it and they don't take it. Why? Because I think they spin too many plates. Now, what do I mean by that? If you think of the old analogy we used to use years ago, whereby you've got plates that are spin on top of a stick. If you spin a few, that's great. If you more and more sticks with plates, more and more, then you start seeing others starting to wobble and some of them will fall off and the plates will smash. It's the same as around goal setting. It's the same around doing business and doing things. Always think about the power of 3. I always only focus on 3 things. Why? Because it's easy to remember, it's easy to handle. Now, if you finish one of them, put another one back in. So you still got 3. How many lights are there on a traffic signal in an intersection? Only 3. Why? Because they're trying to keep it simple for you. Green, orange, or red, right? Just nice and simple. It's the same when you're presenting. It's the same when you're speaking. Try and keep the topics to 3 things if you can. Says he who has just sharing with you about 7 items. Okay, so the thing here is to start small and take progress. Now, for a lot of us, we need to take it easy on ourselves. Why? Because we're harder on ourselves than others would be. Now, mistakes happen. There are missteps, and when those spinning too much, the plates fall off, or the balls will drop, or things will fall through the cracks. The important thing is that you've taken action. That's the important thing. Give yourself a little bit of grace as you navigate the new territory, as you embrace the change and you find your way on that journey. There's one thing I would love to say to you here, and that is learn to laugh at yourself. Some of us take business, we take things that we do so serious. Yeah, we want it to work. Yes, we want it to make money for us to survive, but learn to laugh at yourself, because you've got to have some fun along the way. And, we all do make mistakes. And talking about mistakes, I remember a story of a young lady who made a mistake in the US for a company she was working for, and it was a $3 million mistake. So it's a pretty big mistake, right? And so she was worried. So she came in the office the next morning, bought her own box because she knew she was going to be fired. So she started to pack her desk up, and the phone rang, and it was the executive assistant up on the 10th floor saying, "Come on up, he wants to see you," meaning the managing director wanted to see her. So she hopped in the lift. You can only hear 2 things. Her teeth and her knees were knocking so bad, she was so nervous. So she went up, and as the elevator doors opened up, the executive assistant looked over her glasses at her and said, "Go on in, he's waiting for you." I don't know if it was that deep of a voice, but she said that to her, and she went, "What?" So she went into the office, and here he was sitting at his desk, and he looked up and he said, "Hey, g'day, come on in, grab a seat." And she looked puzzled. And he said to her, "Why do you look puzzled?" She said, "Well, you seem quite happy to see me here. I thought I'm here to be fired." And he said, "Why would I fire you when I've just invested $3 million into you?" The moral of the story is that none of you are on this call today. None of you are either successful in your business or in whatever you're doing in life without making mistakes. We all make mistakes, and that's okay. But take it easy on yourself. Because you see, I don't know about you, sometimes I might make a mistake, but then I'll go and do it the second time just to make sure it was a mistake in the first place. But the thing here is this: we know people who keep making the same mistake all the time, and that's not good enough. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm saying here is that we need to learn from what we're doing, and that's all good and okay. So team, what I'm going to share here is just really is the summary of what I've shared with you. Change the mindset, choose your attitude and what you want to go forward. Do you have an attitude of a growth mindset, somebody who's bouncing forward and wants to get on with things? Or are you somebody who wants to sit in pity city and feel pity for yourself and feel sorry? Well, you choose, you decide, because whatever you decide is what you're going to get. Now, I've also talked about the 6 ways to make change and survive in a disruptive world. Decide your risk. Imagine your future if you change. Imagine your future if you don't change. Recruit help. Get people to help you out. Start small and take it easy on yourself. Now, that's all great. But the thing here is, what do you need to do now to go forward? Because you see, change is change. Leading or leadership is leadership. But how do we lead change? And that's the key here. Well, the thing here for you right now is what you need to do is you need to take massive action. To do something great, you have to take massive action. And it's key. The podcast, I wanted to launch that podcast, but for about a year, I was like, I got too busy and I actually had to just delay it a little bit. But as we went into lockdown, I thought, no, I need to get on with it. And I took massive action. I launched it within a week and a half. The guys, the production team who are in the top 10 and the top 25 in the world who are helping me, they turned around and said, we've never launched a podcast so fast. I went, that's great, but I've got a goal, let's go. And so we got on with it. Taking massive action is amazing. But for a lot of us, what we want to do is we want to make sure it's perfect. It's never going to be perfect. The thing here is you'll never know if it's perfect unless you start on it and take some action, right? So you got to get going with it for sure. And then we can see what's happening there and putting it forward. Now, the thing here is this. You've got certain steps you need to take, but I'm going to say something to you, team, here, and that's this. Your leadership is needed more than ever. Whatever business you've got, whatever thing that you do, your leadership is needed more than ever before. Why? Well, I remember working recently with a guy who came out as an MD for a company and was wanting to do start his own business. And as I was working with him, he goes, Dennis, I am so down with things. I'm overwhelmed. And I'm like, what's up? He's like, I'm just sitting on the couch watching the news and seeing what's going on and the pandemic. And then I just can't get off the couch and it's hard. I don't know what to do. And I went, I do. He goes, what? I went, turn off the news. What? I said, turn off the TV and get off the couch and do what you need to do. Now, don't get me wrong. You and I need to know what's going on in the world. That's a responsible thing to do. You can watch the 1 o'clock announcements every day, understand for 5 minutes what's happening, turn it off and then get on with your life. Why? Because they're just going to repeat things. And so that's not going to serve you. How are you going to serve your organization, yourself, your family, is actually by getting on with things. And your leadership is needed more than ever. Another guy I work with, he said to me, when the pandemic, we're about to go lockdown, I'm just going to wait for everything to die down and then get on with it. I said, no, you won't. And he went, what? I said, no, you won't. Your leadership is needed now more than ever. And he goes, good message. To his credit, he went off to lead the COVID response team. And he's gone off to bigger things as well. So he's done very well. So team, that's the big thing here for us all. Your leadership is needed more than ever. And the thing here is, I'm going to really encourage you to step back and go through those 6 different things, but also the 7th thing, which was around your mindset. Really start thinking about what you want to do. Because the thing here that's really important for us all is that leadership is changing. How you show up, how you step up, and how you lead from the front is what counts. And so, team, please feel free to check out the podcast, Leadership is Changing. That's what it looks like on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and so forth. It's on many platforms. I actually just launched yesterday on 2 major platforms in India, which is fantastic. And so check that out. Leadership is Changing. Hey, if any of you need to get hold of me, there's my contact details. If you want me to come in and help you in your organization, feel free to do that. If you just want to have a chat about things, a lot of people are doing that right now, sitting down with me, talking about things. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. More than happy to assist and help out. But other than that, hey, thanks for allowing me to come into your tribe, to your group, and allow me to share what I've got to share. Because no, leadership is changing. It's totally up to you with what you do with it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dennis. That's fantastic. Definitely some awesome words of wisdom there. So what we'll do is we'll just open the room for some questions. So if you have a question, feel free to unmute yourself and ask Dennis, or raise your hand, or Mike, go ahead.
Thanks for the presentation. Excellent. I had just a question. It just seemed to me to be a little bit of conflict between take massive action and start small. I'm sure there isn't, but maybe you could just clarify that for us.
Yep, sure. The first step in taking massive action is a small step, right? So just take the small step, go for it.
Okay.
The thing here, what I'm trying to get at is that people try to take on too much. And I've got to do this and I've got to do that and all that. I get it all. And that's what's got to happen. But start with one thing. Just go for it. Then do the second, then do the third. And then what you'll start to see is you start to get momentum. And the massive action piece is whereby I put the word massive there. Take the word massive out. Just take action. And I think that's what's really key. And most people use it as an excuse. Most people have got excuses. You either want to have an excuse or you want to have a business that's successful. You choose. You can't have both, right? And so, yeah, so that's where I'm going with that, Mike. It's just take a step forward, go for it, and take massive action. Just keep going, keep doing what you need to do in that space, and you'll start to see things happening. However, there is a trap. A lot of people start doing the small steps and they start taking more action, and then they go, oh, it's not working. Hello, it's going to take time. You are going to be challenged. You're going to have curveballs thrown at you as well. Just keep going though.
Dennis, I'd like to speak into that. It was great. I really agree with that. I've been exercising that just of late in my business work. And you know, sometimes you get to sometimes just a stopping point where your will just sort of wants to stop, but you know you've got to push through, but you've really got to, you just got to take that first step. And I've just noticed just closing my eyes almost and taking that step, or ringing that person, or doing that thing I don't want to do, you know, what is it, eating the frog? The first thing, it's good and it really works. Just that one thing you might not want to do, or you don't think you can do, just give it a go, and from there the rest comes. So yeah, some good takeaways there. And can I ask you, where's your surname from? I'm like, are you Greek? Is that Greek?
Yeah, I am actually.
Yasu.
Thank you. Actually, if I just share my desktop again, I'm going to come back to what you just said, Joe, as well, in relation to it. But if I just share my desktop, that is, that's the island my dad's from in Greece. So, which is an island below Corfu, in between Italy and Greece. So yeah, that's where I come from. Hey, just about something you just said before is in relation to that. Now the step forward, and going back to what Mike said as well, the step doesn't have to be a step forward. It could be a side step. Now, what do I mean by that? If things have been thrown at you, coming at you, straight at you, sidestep. It's still a step. And the other thing too is I find that a lot of people run away. If there is a fire, I don't know what's going on lately, but we've had 3 houses catch fire around here recently. But the thing here is, if a house is on fire, what do people tend to do? They run away. What does the fire crew do? They run towards it. Right? And so if you're facing something right now that you're not sure what to do, run towards it. Run towards the fire.
Cool. That's great.
Thank you.
I'm from the Konstantinos family.
Oh, cool. Very good. Oh, just found a cousin. Very nice.
Got the profile. Anyway.
Very good.
I'm from the Partridge family. Great presentation, Dennis. I think some people are scared of the word leadership at times. It takes us a while to understand that we're all leaders, and we're leaders in different circumstances, and different styles of leadership is required in different circumstances. People think, oh, if you're talking about leadership, you're talking about being the leader of a group of people that work for you or work under you, but it can sometimes be the case of you might be the leader in a sports team, but you might not be the leader at your local church or your local community or whatever. It's just being able to do whatever you can do and how you can contribute in the circumstances.
Yeah, you're so Garth, right? Yep. Yeah, you're so right. I mean, because you've got a title doesn't mean that you're the leader. It means you're just somebody with a title. I think that a leader has to have influence and so forth, and people do shy away from it. But then there's this other thing too, Garth, is that if you don't want to be the leader, that's okay as well. But don't take the role. Step away. Let somebody else step into it and take it over. Because if you don't want to be the leader, then you're not going to do a very good job. If you are wanting to be the leader, then do what you need to do to be the best at what you can do there. But because somebody's got a title, it doesn't mean a thing. I'm working with a lot of people right now who are coming out of large organizations and so forth, and they've been there 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. They're in early 40s to mid to late 50s. They've been sucked out of these organizations, and all of a sudden, their whole identity has been around their title or around their organization, and now they're lost. They don't know what to do.
Yep.
And so it's because everything's around what you've just talked about. Thanks.